Hi there guys, thank you for joining me in the showroom again for another review. This is the SEAT Leon 1.5 EVO FR TSI. That's a bit of a mouthful, but we'll get on to it. So starting with the exterior, this model ran from 2014. It's still pretty relevant up until 2021. I wish they did a model change. This particular one finished in a metallic urban silver. I personally really like silver cars. I think they're good for disguising some of the road dirt. They're very good at hiding stone chips. They're very stylish to look at. I know a lot of people don't necessarily agree, but I've got to say I think it looks pretty good in the hatchback side of things. This particular EVO FR has got the upgraded 18-inch alloy wheels, which I think look really smart. It's also got the SEAT lighting system, which gives you a very nice LED daytime running light, and the actual headlights themselves are very clever with their LED functions. It's a nice bright light, and of course SEAT are pretty good with their technology side of things. And of course, carrying on through to the rear, we've got the LED filament in the lights too. It's a very nice sporty looking hatchback. Aggressive looking bumpers, but nothing too sharp, nothing's an eyesore. So I've taken the partial shelf out just to show you the comprehensive boot space that it has. So it's 380 litres, which I think for a hatchback, that's pretty good going. Well then guys, so of course you're joining me in the SEAT that I've just introduced to you in the showroom. And I always like to think in these videos, who would the vehicle be good for? Who should I say, yeah, this would be perfect for them? And of course there's no right answer for everyone. Everyone's got a preference, everyone likes to make up their own mind. But there are demographics, there are categories that you go, yeah, that would work really well. And I started off thinking this would be perfect for a young person because it's a good sporty looking hatchback. It's got a 1.5 TSI engine in there, producing 130 horsepower, which in all honesty comes down to, with a young person, you want cheap running cost. The tax obviously being a 68 plate, it's after the 2017 debacle where it's £165 a year, which is the same on every car of this age, so we'll still call it a cheap running vehicle. And then I thought, well, you could apply that to the same with an older person, because obviously, you know, they want something that's relatively easy to drive, which this one is. They want something that's easy to park, because it's got the front and rear parking sensors. They want something that's just generally an easy car. But then I thought, well, to be honest then, this car's good for, well, pretty much everyone really, because it's cheap to run, or cost effective to run, should we say. It's not too bad in the first instance of actually purchasing the vehicle. It's got the sportiness because obviously it's the FR, so you've got some pretty cool looking angles on the vehicle. You've got a good level of technology in the vehicle too. So who wouldn't want a cost-effective, high-tech hatchback, which gives you a sporty look? So I think the vehicle, in all honesty, it's good for everyone. So we'll get into more of the interior really. As I always do, I always go through like a bit of a cockpit review, of which you've got your window switches down to the right-hand side here, with your mirror adjustments just above that. And then above the right knee, you've got your lights, which this one has automatic LED lights, which is part of the SEAT lighting system. It's a really impressive system that they use, to be honest. You've got a multifunctional steering wheel, and that coincides with the digital dash display in between the rev counter and the speedometer. And the information on there is brilliant. You've of course got your trip computer, which you would have in most cars, but obviously it gives you your average consumption of MPG, a digital speedometer. It'll give you distance travelled, time travelled, and things like that, which is really useful to know. You've also got assist system, so this one has got a radar system in the front bumper, which alerts you if you're approaching something too fast. It doesn't intervene on this particular model, but it will certainly beep at you and tell you that you're approaching something and you need to do something about it. You've got your navigation that can turn up into your centre dash. You've got audio information, so you can skip and move across radio stations, skip songs, etc. Your telephone comes up through there, so you can choose between your contacts and who to call, etc. And then you've got vehicle status, so it'll tell you any warning messages or anything like that. So as an information display goes, it's really informative, really good, and it's very, very easy to use. It's all on the right hand side of the steering wheel here, where you can navigate through each menu. Using the scroller dial, you can go through the information that's been viewed, really quite easy. Left hand side, you've got your buttons to be able to skip through songs and skip through contacts, and then you've got your volume dial on there as well, of which you can press that and it'll mute and unmute the system too. Then of course you've got this big media screen in the center, which I think carries on with the information that you get on the center display here over to here, because of course you can put everything from there onto there. So you've got all your trip information. It'll show you a graph of how economically you're driving should you want to see that. It's got its own built-in satellite navigation system, and of course you can control all of your media and everything through there too. And the other really cool thing is, of this era, it's got the Apple CarPlay. So you do have to plug it in. There are systems out there where you don't have to have the car plugged in via USB, but on this one you do. And if you haven't used Apple CarPlay before, it's essentially mirroring your screen to this center screen. You can access messages, emails, your Spotify will come up on there as well. Everything that your phone screen does, to a degree, comes up on the center console. And anyone who has a smartphone, which most people do nowadays, it's really quite a cool tool to have. You've got your dual climate control just below, which again, as you would expect, it's really easy to use. I've got my driver's side dial here, passenger side dial just there, and your fan control in the middle. Can't get much easier than that. This one, of course, is a 6-speed manual gearbox in here. You can get an automatic gearbox too, but I think as an FR with this size of engine and a bit of a sporty hatchback, I really quite like the manual. I think it's a really good fun car to drive. The clutch is really quite light. The gear shifts are nice and smooth. There's no nasty clunks or anything like that. You do have an electronic handbrake in this one, which there are pros and cons to an electronic handbrake in my eyes. I think the pros are, obviously there's no big space needed for an actual physical handbrake that you pull yourself. So it's a nice, small, easy, light button to use. And the other pro is that when you jump into the car, you start it up, you put your seatbelt on, you put it into gear, and as you pull away, it'll turn that off automatically. The only downside I can really see to an electronic handbrake is if you forget to put it on. It's not entirely obvious, but you do just look for that little red light, and then obviously you don't want to go anywhere that it shouldn't be going. Just below that, you have an auto hold function. That's quite a cool system to use as well. I don't like it though, and the reason is because it'll hold you until you accelerate away, when sometimes you just want the vehicle to be able to coast. So an example would be if you're facing down a hill and you're in traffic, you're just trying to get home, you sometimes would just obviously take your foot off the brake. You'll be in neutral, you take your foot off the brake, and the car will naturally roll down the hill. With the auto hold function on, even when you're facing downhill, you'd have to be in gear to then release the clutch for it to know that you're wanting to drive forward. Some people don't like it, some people really love it. It's very easy to turn on and off, so if you're a fan of it, you don't have to use it all the time, but you can just turn it on and you can turn it off just on that button there. Really quite easy. So just to touch more on the interior and the comfort side of things, very comfortable seats, got really good support. So these are a cloth seat, they've got a leather headrest, as I'm sure you can see, and they're leather edged, but essentially the basis of the seat is that it's cloth. But that's, you know, relatively nice. It's a good material to have. You can see it's a good quality cloth. It's not like it's going to fray or anything like that, or you certainly hope that it wouldn't. Then in terms of the buttons and everything, all seem to be very solid. Nothing's faded away, nothing's cracked or broken. The only thing that does frustrate me, and it's across the Volkswagen Audi group, is their volume button has the power symbol on it, and that power symbol rotates when you turn the button. I mean, how trivial is that? But it's somehow a very frustrating thing to me. I quite like it that the power button would stay in the upright position. You're not going to be rotating that, you just rotate the outside. So I would ordinarily leave that one alone and use the steering wheel controls. That's my own particular fussy bit. But other than that, really impressed. You know, everything's nice and solid. It's got a nice black surround across the screen, and it comes across the dash and the vents and everything like that as well. But yeah, just again, nice impressive interior. But as I say, the build quality is there because it's part of the Volkswagen Audi group. so you would certainly expect it to be, but I somehow think it has a little bit more fun to it, has a little bit more of a style with the SEAT. So yeah, impressed. So a little bit more regarding the engine and the gearbox setup in this vehicle. So as mentioned, it is the 1.5 EVO FR. So it comes with this 1.5 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine, producing 130 brake horsepower, paired with this 6-speed manual gearbox. I think it's a good combination to have in this hatchback. At first, when I first jumped in, I thought 1.5. What's that going to be able to achieve? You know, I'm not going to really be wowed by it. But I am pretty impressed, it's fair to say. So we've been doing some back road driving today, some country roads, and I've also taken this down the dual carriageway, and it sits very comfortably at 70 miles an hour. You're in 6th gear. It's got a very cool economy mode, so essentially if you're coasting along, it's not really required to do much. It goes into what they call a 2-cylinder mode, shuts down 2 of the cylinders in the engine, which is obviously saving you fuel. You put your foot back onto the accelerator, it realises obviously you need a bit more power, away it goes, so back into 4-cylinder mode. You've got different modes within the vehicle, so you can choose between eco, normal and sport. This is obviously becoming quite a common practice within a lot of hatchbacks, or a lot of cars in general really. I haven't really noticed a massive difference driving between normal and sport. I think it's more of a, you know, it lets you feel a bit more in control, in the sense of the steering slightly heavier, your throttle's a little bit more responsive, but it's really not that noticeable whether you were driving between the two. Eco, however, it does really reduce your throttle response, and it really is a little bit more stringent on when you should be changing gear, because of course within your digital dash in there, it'll tell you what gear that you should be in for the style of driving that you're currently doing. So eco, it does save you fuel as you go. But massively impressed at 130 horsepower. I'm not going to set the world alight. I shouldn't take it to a track day, but it's very capable to do what you need it to do. If you're following a tractor, I'd feel quite confident that you'd be able to pull out and get around it quick enough. You know, you can drop a gear and disappear, so they say. It's not going to disappear, but it will get you around there. I think genuinely, as a 1.5 goes, I am massively impressed, especially since it does return the MPG figures that it does return. So on our journey today, let's have a look. We averaged 48 miles to the gallon, and that has all been country roads. It's been changing gear quite continuously. You can see it goes into the 2-cylinder mode. It tells you when it does that. It's just a really clever bit of kit, to be honest. I'd take it, you know, the tax cost, annoyingly, had it been pre-2017, it would be £20 a year. But after 2017, or October of 2017 to be precise, it obviously falls into their new tax bracket, which is a little bit frustrating. It's £165 a year to tax it. But as far as running cost goes, mightily impressed. And I'd recommend it, as I said earlier, to anyone. If you're a young person who needs a cheap car to run, or an inexpensive car to run, I think it's brilliant. And I think if you can deal with a hatchback, if you've got kids or anything like that, I don't think it's going to be too sluggish. I really am impressed. So then guys, back in the showroom after the test drive and the review of the SEAT Leon FR. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And if you like the video, please like, subscribe and comment. Thanks very much. Bye.